It's the middle of the night. You're alone in the middle of a pine forest. You hear sounds, eerie sounds, coming from the darkness. You hear the beating of wings, large wings. You see red, piercing eyes darting out from behind the trees in the darkness. You try and catch a glimpse of what you're looking at, but you really can't make anything out. The shapes are distorted. They're not common. They're not familiar. You see something 3 feet tall, large wings, tail, cloven hooves. Looks as though it has the face of a horse. It's a monster. It's the Jersey Devil. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Xplorers, Seekers of the Truth. Oh, there it is. A little late on the sound effects, but not too bad. I am Less Than Cabbage, and with me tonight, and as always, is my co-host, Charming Chad Charlesworth.
Well, how are you doing tonight, Luscious Les?
I am fantastical. So tonight episode, as we had said, is going to be on the New Jersey Devil, a cryptid creature that is pretty well known, pretty popular throughout, the U.S. with entertainment and folklore and you name it, the sports. The Jersey Devil is a very well known thing, or a very very well known name. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the cryptid creature, not so much the sports team or the video games or anything like that. So, shall we start, my friend?
Of course, but I'd like to know first, what sport do the New Jersey Devils play in, Les?
Hockey.
Wow, you got that right.
Yeah. Well, it's related to a cryptozoological creature, so of course I know that one. So, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Jersey Devil. I mean, a lot of people know about the Jersey Devil. Obviously, it's, from the state of New Jersey. It's located in the, its habitat is in what they call the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. It's a cluster of pine forests in I believe, the center of the state. The reports that people are making about the characteristics of the creature is they have bat-like wings, long thin body, thin neck, goat-like horns, cloven hooves, and a slender tail. Now, a lot of people say that it also has like the face of a horse, a furry torso with the goat legs and everything like that. Very much like a demon, pretty much, is what I get from these depictions. The height, the size of it, reports range from about 3 feet to 6 feet tall, 70 to 180 pounds. I guess its appetite is carnivorous. It preys upon small animals, livestock, and occasionally human children.
Human children taste good.
They do. It's the other white meat. Things that you should be that you should look out for. Bright lanterns or lights have been reported to deter the Jersey Devil attacks. Crucifixes, anything religious or holy, the Bible, other holy items may also ward off the creature because, again, it is thought to be a demon. So the stories go that back to at least 1735 at Leeds Point.
The mother Leeds.
Yeah.
She had 12 children. Her 13th child, she was told, was going to be the devil itself.
Well, yeah. So I'll take a snippet from one of Lauren Coleman's books, The Mysterious America. Let's see. He states that the Jersey Devil, sometimes called the Leeds Devil, has been seen since the 1930s. But long before that, a great body of folklore had grown up around the elusive beast. Some versions of the legend, folklorists claim there are over 30 variants of the tale in circulation, list the creature's alleged birth as having taken place in 1887. However, the Gloucester Historical Society has traced the tale back as far as 1790, and there is every reason to believe it was around even earlier. The most frequently related account of the devil's origins goes to this. In 1735, a Mrs. Leeds of Estelville, New Jersey, upon finding she was pregnant for the 13th time and less than exhilarated about it, snorted that if she was going to have another child, it might as well be a devil. And it was. Dum dum dum. So, it was born with an animal's head, a bird's body, and cloven hooves instead of feet. So again, like we were talking about the characteristics, the very much non-human forms and kind of a melting pot of animals all into one. You're nodding.
Yes,
Am I doing that too much while I'm talking?
I thought I was working with somebody who had Parkinson's for a minute.
I was watching Michael J. Fox on TV. It kind of got me going.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The Mother Leeds story is like one angle on it. The Native American population, actually, the name for the area, the Pine Barrens area, the English translation for it is the place of the dragon. Then you have the Dutch explorers who named it Drakekill, which is Dutch. In Dutch, Drake is dragon, and kill is arm of the sea. So you have two stories basically that go back before the Mother Leeds that speak of dragons, which if you think of dragons, winged creatures,
right?
A little bit of a melting pot of different, everybody's seen How You Train Your Dragons. There's different dragons in that story. Right. So people may, dragons mean a lot of things to a lot of different cultures.
Right. And if you look at a lot of the early depictions of dragons and stuff like that, especially sea kind of dragons, they kind of have like a horse-like head, the reptilian body with the wings and all that stuff. But basically, kind of like a crazy taxidermist, kind of like throwing pieces together. It's kind of like the Frankenstein of the animal world, kind of sewn together, But I mean, part of the lead story, I guess I'll go back to Lauren's story here. Like they said, it had, an animal's head, a bird's body, and cloven hooves instead of feet. Now, cursing its mother, in that they supposedly it could speak at birth, it promptly flew up the chimney and took up residence in the swamps and pine barrens of southern New Jersey, where it has lived ever since. Now, American folklore is filled with similar stories about a pregnant mother's careless words backfiring on her. As late as 1908, a tale circulating through rural Alabama had it that a Birmingham baby was born with horns like a devil. And during her pregnancy, the mother had remarked, I'd as soon have a devil in the house as a baby. So, yeah. So there's kind of a little synopsis of, the origin of the New Jersey Devil.
I would just like to say that's one really loving mother. I can imagine that kid's childhood.
Oh yeah. She's number one on world's best mothers list. But I don't know. I mean, this is a tricky one. Now the stories have been around, obviously, mid 1700s until now. I don't really know what to make of it. I mean, this is almost kind of delving into both the cryptozoological and almost paranormal worlds, where you're working with almost like a demonic, cursed being.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a cryptid, but it's not paranormal. But I mean, you got to look at the definition of paranormal. It's basically anything science that doesn't side with science.
Right. Anything unknown. So.
Yeah, supernatural.
But I mean paranormal as far as ghosts and spirits and poltergeists, demons.
Well, that's a modern interpretation of the term paranormal. That's only because there's television shows that tell you paranormal hunters, paranormal this, paranormal that. One of the things I think people got to realize is when we say the Pine Barrens, anybody that's driven to Atlantic City on the expressway has driven through there. Mm-hmm. What you don't realize is that's 1.1 million square miles of land that is considered the Pine Barrens.
A lot of places to hide.
Yeah. A lot of the reports generally focused on the area, say, around Egg Harbor, Leeds itself. I know the town of Leeds there, Leeds Forest, whatever it is. I mean, they've become a touristy area for the Jersey Devil. From what I recall, the Jersey Devil has been seen in Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, I actually heard about that. Like it made its way down into parts of Pennsylvania that border New Jersey. So it gets around. I mean, it really does. It gets around.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's winged.
Yeah,
It's a dragon.
So, yeah. It would take a lot less time for it to travel, broader areas than it would, walking. So I could see that, and it's funny too. Like you're talking about like the paranormal shows and stuff like that too, because I do believe an episode of Destination Truth, Josh Gates, and I think they had that Chris Williams from Taps was a special guest, and they did the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I believe pretty much any paranormal or cryptozoology show is going to hit, the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, because they're one of the Jersey Devils, one of the big names in the cryptozoological world. I mean, you have your Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti. I mean, they're kind of one in the same.
Yeah.
Then you have the Jersey Devil, the Mothman, Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra.
Well, I think you have your cornerstones of the cryptozoology world, and you pretty much name most of them. I mean, you have a few others that you could throw in there and say, oh, those are the cornerstones of it. But we're talking Jersey Devil here, folks.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking, and like I said, anybody that's driven to Atlantic City on the Atlantic City Expressway has driven through the Pine Barrens. I've looked out the window and went, holy crap, that's a lot of trees.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's thick woods. World's Scariest Places that was narrated by Linda Blair did an episode there.
Right. That's right.
And they had screeches and stuff like that on audio.
And that's funny, too, because these people that go out to the Pine Barrens, they always kind of get, evidence, like odd evidence. Like,
well, Josh Gates and them got lights of something flying on cameras and stuff like that was larger than the native avian population.
Right.
They tried to, I actually remember the episode. I just watched it recently. They tried to equate it to, because they had a white-tailed deer run out in front of them while they were driving.
Right.
And they said, oh, the horse head, if you look at a deer's head, and it would look like a horse's head.
Yeah.
I've seen horses and deer, and I don't equate the two.
They're nowhere. No.
Yeah.
No. But, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know how to take this topic or how to take this cryptid creature, because, like I said, it is more or less more on the realm of paranormal, or just more
the origin story.
Yeah. I'm losing my words here, but yeah, it's not your more or less flesh and blood could kind of maybe have evolved or changed from something known or anything like that. Like, this is definitely demonic in nature. So,
well, the thing that interests me somewhat about the New Jersey Devil is the quality of people reporting this. One of the early reports is from Commodore Stephen Decatur, who witnessed a flying creature with flapping wings that they shot a cannonball at. Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's elder brother, claims to have witnessed the Jersey Devil while hunting in New Jersey. So now you have two relatively sophisticated, educated people with very early reports. Now, again, we've always discussed, if you've never seen one before, it's a monster.
Yeah. We talked about that last week.
Yeah. On our last episode, we had discussed that. So, it could be that. It could be something people are seeing and just don't understand what they're seeing. Right. It goes back like the Mothman. They try to write off the Mothman as an owl. They try to write it off as this. They try to... I remember a show that did an investigation on it where they took eyewitnesses to the Mothman and put wood statues along the road.
Yeah, with reflectors for eyes and stuff like that.
And then drove them by it, and they were like 2-foot high things, and people were saying, well, that's about the size of it. Well, you reported it at 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
They took them back and said, look, it's 2 foot. It's 2 foot with reflective red eyes. The Jersey Devil, though, when you got Napoleon's brother, you have a Commodore from the U.S. military, there's no reason back then to create these stories except for to enhance the area.
Right.
You've driven through the Pine Barrens, there's nothing going on in there. It's a nationally protected park now.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for probably about 100 years now. So these people are even dating before that. Why would you make up a story? I mean, as a military person, you make this story up, that destroys all credibility you have. Especially back then, because you're neither a drunk or you're crazy.
Right.
You know, and some of our greatest military leaders were drunk and crazy. You know, but so why would you tell that story?
Yeah.
Napoleon's brother.
What was the gain from it? It's not like you're getting any monetary gain or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
you're not. It's not advancing your career. It's
Yeah.
actually detrimental.
Yeah.
Napoleon's brother has no reason to talk about it because I believe at the time he was hunting here, he was in exile.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't anything more than French diplomat, basically,
Yeah.
living here in the United States. So to tell the story of the New Jersey Devil, or citing this creature that we call the New Jersey Devil, has no grounds.
worth, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in 1840, the devil was blamed for several livestock killings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's interesting. That, to me, coming from the background I come from, is basically the easy way of writing stuff off.
Yeah.
You know, was it a dog, a bear, a coyote, and you're in this area, so, well, it had to be the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, gives me that little kind of cautionary thought of it, like, at that point, because that's an easy way of writing something off.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Bonaparte talking about it, and the Commodore speaking on it, has no materialistic gains in my book.
Yeah.
Again, that was 1840 that happened. 1841, the same thing happens. Now, they sent out a search party at that point. They found tracks, cloven hooves.
Yeah. Deer.
Deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to find deer tracks in woods.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're
Not
lost.
looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're obviously blind.
Yeah. But they did hear screams at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have owls. You're talking 1840s. We have not, you know, we were hunting in those areas for, you know, 200 years, 300 years at that point, but you still had owls. You still had different birds. You had animals that howl. I mean, how many people do we hear, you know, oh, I got a Bigfoot recording here, and I play it in front of my dog. My dog's ears kick up, and she's all upset because it's coyotes howling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, misidentification again.
Right. Well, there's another interesting tidbit from another one of Lauren Coleman's book, the Cryptozoology A to Z, where he states that he and Ivan T. Sanderson offered a likely explanation for the scare. Apparently, and you know, again, like the whole propaganda thing, is apparently to elaborate real estate hoax. Like, scared residents would be more likely to sell the property at lower prices to developers. And Sanderson even found the fake feet used to make the footprints in the snow and everything. Hoof prints and other evidence were faked or misidentified. The stories of sightings seem to have been, you know, a combination of planted stories, hoaxes, and imaginations fueled by fear. So, I don't know. It's just, you know, is it again, like, is it propaganda? Is it factual? You know?
Yeah. Well, like I always say, you follow the money. The early stories, there's no money.
Yeah.
There's no reason except for to sell hunting trips to this area, to get other people to come to this area who are hunters.
Right.
You're not making, you know, the money, because if people are afraid,
they're not going to want to come.
They're
around.
not going to want to come.
Yeah.
Now you go to 1925, in December of 1925, in Greenwich. There was a claim of a person shooting a local farmer who had shot an unidentified animal as it attempted to steal his chickens. Afterwards, it was claimed that 100 people were shown the body, and not one of them could identify it. So now, 1925, you're getting into a more modern era. I'm sure they didn't ask people, they didn't ask the guy that lived at the beach to identify this creature.
Right.
I'm sure they asked woods people, the rural people, to come and tell me what this is.
Right.
So you're getting, people who would have some understanding of, that's an owl, or that's that's a coyote. It's, and not that a coyote could be mistaken for a cloven-hoofed flying animal, but you know what I mean? So you're getting people that would know what they're looking at.
Right.
They're not asking, I'm sure there was probably doctors involved and veterinarians, and, they claim, and this is, again, it goes back to it's a claim. There's no concrete, police documentation of this story.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard to put your finger on this one because they're just the makeup of the creature and it's just so bizarre, and the whole story behind it of, it was a human who gave birth to this creature,
Well, what intrigues me?
What?
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
The Indians, Native Americans, called it, the dragons. They mentioned dragons. The Dutch explorers used the word dragon. Well, think about all these cultures that have dragon references. All these flying serpent-like creatures that are depicted on, these monuments that were built thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and all throughout the world, like regions of the world that, at the time, there was no way they could be in communication with each other.
Yeah, you're talking cultures that are separated by time, distance that was insurmountable at that point in life. It's not like nowadays where you can fly to the Amazon. You could fly, you could fly to the Amazon today
in a few hours.
In so many hours, and from there fly to Egypt. From one of the airports in one of the cities, you could fly to Egypt,
right,
and then fly to Europe, and then fly back to New Jersey.
Yeah, now transportation is so much more accessible and convenient, whereas back in the day, you'd never make it.
Yeah. Now, you go to July 27th, 1937, you have an unknown animal with red eyes reported by residents of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia.
Right.
What other story, cryptid story, on the other side of Pennsylvania? Yeah. Ohio, or West Virginia, not Ohio. So you have the Mothman, also said to have red eyes. Yeah. Winged creature.
Around the same size and whatnot.
Yeah. So it's been reported in newspapers. The Philadelphia Bulletin put it in 1937. They had a description of it. That's that classic description of the horse head, the winged body, and the cloven hooves. 1951, you have Boy Scouts, claiming that they saw a monster matching the New Jersey Devil description. Now I get rid of that one right away.
Right.
It's a bunch of kids. You were out too late. You were somewhere you weren't supposed to be. Well, Mom, I saw this. If you ask my mom, I saw zombies at the cemetery walking the road from the cemetery to our house every night when I had to come home. And, she makes fun of me to this day for it. But, so that one I kind of would discredit it.
Well, I could see it'd be easier to write that one off. But at the same time, I look back at situations that I experienced as a child. And to this day, I know what I saw. You know what I mean? So I try not to discredit kids too much, but in the same token, it's kind of like they have much more vivid imaginations. Their minds play tricks on them easier. But I don't know.
No, too. You also have.
It's like with any claim, really, without concrete evidence, without a photograph, without a video. You know what I mean? Without
I would say without a body. You can't.
Well, yeah,
because video
yeah.
and all this stuff nowadays.
Anything could be hoax,
Yeah.
but without something a little bit more to solidify your claim, other than just a bunch of kids saying, "Oh, we saw." I mean, that could very well be like we had talked about in our last show, misidentification, or what we were talking about, the sturgeon or something like
the
that.
sturgeon
With the lake monster episode. Anybody, and the alligator gar too. Anybody who is not familiar with a certain species, your brain is going to try to put something together to make a rational, thought.
Yeah. One of the things that interests me is in 1960, I would love to know if this is still available. The merchants around the town of Camden offered $10,000 a $10,000 reward for the capture of the New Jersey Devil, offering to build it a private zoo to house the creature if captured.
We should really look into that, because you know what, $10,000 would really fund our research equipment. Yeah, and maybe we could actually get better equipment to get this show really off the ground, and our research and everything. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be a nice start for research value.
Yeah.
I mean, it would also take a lot of money to capture something that may not exist.
Well, you know what? Let's get a couple guns and go out there and just. Well, I guess shooting the thing isn't going to help with the zoo. So.
No. Well, how about we just tell our wives that we're going to look for the New Jersey Devil, and we just go to Atlantic City for the night and say we didn't find it.
I'm down. That's good.
It works,
because we might get money that way. Yeah. We might lose some more money, but either way, we're funding this stuff out of our own pockets, so we're losing money no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, at least that way we could possibly win. More than $10,000.
Yeah, might get $10.
Yeah, hey, I've been lucky before.
And a comped room, Yeah.
Now you have sightings. 1909. There's some sightings. Basically, January 16th through the 23rd, there was hundreds of claims of encounters with the New Jersey Devil from all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get into that, and I start to think mass hysteria.
Right.
I want to be my name in the newspaper. I want to be something. Mm-hmm. Oh, I saw the Jersey Devil over here on the road.
Yeah. Or the simple fact, like you said, with the mass hysteria, you take people who are superstitious or, just that buy into things very easily. You know what I mean? And they may go outside and they hear a noise, or they see, the eye shine of an owl, and maybe it's the owl startle and takes, then right away they're like, oh my God, this Jersey Devil was sighted, not far from where I live. That's what it is. I got to get in the house. I'm freaking out,
Mm-hmm. Now, some other interesting things, like we're talking about these hundreds of sightings. One of the claims in these hundreds of sightings, well, I'm going to give you two of these claims. It was allegedly it attacked a trolley car. Now, you got to figure there was more than probably one person on that trolley car at the time.
Right.
And a social club. But here's the one that becomes interesting. Not that this whole show isn't interesting as I'm talking.
Yeah, right.
The police in Camden, New Jersey, and Bristol, PA, reported shooting at the creature with no effect.
So police reported.
Police officers, on-duty police officers, reported firing shots at this creature and doing nothing to it. Now remember, Camden, New Jersey, and Bristol, PA.
Yeah.
So now they're basically 4. If you break the two police reports up into what they actually are, you're looking at 4 reports with multiple witnesses.
Right.
I would take the police reports with more integrity in reporting.
Yeah.
The trolley car driver, he's probably a paid city employee or a county employee. Maybe not back then, but probably. I would take his report with some grain of sanity involved. A social club, what do you
Probably
do?
A bunch of drunks.
Yeah, you drink at a social club. It's not. Let's not confuse this.
Yeah.
So somebody did a little damage outside or something like that. Hit it with something. Oh, the New Jersey Devil got it.
Yeah.
So, some reports as far away as Delaware for the New Jersey Devil. Now that's not really that far when you think about it. Philadelphia, you cross over to southern side of Philly, you go into Delaware.
Yeah.
So it's not that far.
But nonetheless, there's reports within a somewhat, localized area.
Yeah. The funny thing is, and I wish this would happen when we were kids, due to the widespread newspaper coverage, these reports in Delaware and in Philadelphia led to such a panic that Delaware Valley schools prompted a number of school closings that nobody came to the school. The staff and everything were told to stay home.
Because of the Jersey Devil.
Because of the Jersey Devil.
Wow. We should have went to that school for sure.
Another reward was offered by the Philadelphia Zoo, again, $10,000, for the creature's dung.
As a source to heat their homes, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe they needed to keep the lion enclosure a little warmer.
Yeah, really.
So they wanted demonic dung. That led to various and great variety of hoaxes that included kangaroos with artificial wings.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to hoax something and you're going to take it in front of people who have an education,
yeah,
I don't think gluing wings to kangaroos and saying that's the Jersey Devil, first of all, it doesn't have cloven hooves.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, though, if you let a kangaroo with fake wings on it loose in the Pine Barrens, and again, it's like we're talking about an animal that's not common,
mm-hmm.
and that you have that thing hopping around at night.
Oh yeah,
that's enough to scare the hell out of you.
I'd be scared if I was in the woods in the Pine Barrens
and just saw a kangaroo.
I saw a kangaroo.
Yeah.
I would just be
what
like,
the hell?
I'd be like, the Jersey Devil let a kangaroo loose.
Yeah, right.
What is he thinking? Who is this Jersey Devil? So yeah, I mean, it's a funny one because I mean, you strap fake wings to a kangaroo and just let it 10 feet off the road. And people are going to be calling the New Jersey State Police going, I saw the Jersey Devil. It was right along the Atlantic City Expressway at this mile marker.
Yeah.
Is it a folklore story like the old boogeyman in your closet? Was it something that was told to these people because it goes from Native Americans to early explorers to the colonial times to modern day? Mm-hmm. Is it something that's told to these people, these children, that, is to scare them from getting too far from the house? Is it to scare them to go to bed on time?
Yeah.
We have a lot of stories in history that you could pretty much imagine some grandmother telling the grandkids about some creature or something that lives in the woods. And, hey, if you don't go to bed or if you don't eat your vegetables, the New Jersey Devil's going to get you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it a folklore story? Is it a real cryptid? Without a body, you're never going to prove it. And the problem is, without a body, you'll never disprove it. You'll never be able to say, oh, the Jersey Devil's a hoax because this family started this story and, it just got passed down through the village. Mm-hmm. But I go back to those two stories of the early stories, Joseph Bonaparte and Commodore Decatur. Those two stories just make me think, like, why would two people of that ilk resort to telling these stories and there's no value in it?
Right.
They're not trying to scare their kids to go to bed. They're publicized stories. They're not, when I was in New Jersey, when I was, inspecting the cannonball factory, I saw this winged creature. I mean, what's the value in telling that story?
Yeah. Unless to just maybe try and scare people away from the where they would house those bombs and stuff like that.
Well, these were cannonballs, though. These weren't it's not like out in Point Pleasant and stuff like that where they had the TNT factories and test labs and stuff like that. This is early colonial,
just steel balls
that are being shot out of a cannon and hitting people. So, Yeah, it's not like research and development wasn't that great back then in the killing areas.
Yeah.
So it's not like you'd be trying to scare people away from your lab.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
No, I could be 100% wrong on that. I mean, there could have been some early attempts at, different types of cannon shot.
Right.
So I'm not just ruling that out completely, but historically, it doesn't really fit with that idea.
Yeah. Losing train of thought?
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I actually lost my train of thought there for a second.
Hey, that's all right, buddy. Happens to the best of us. It is getting late. It's a little bit later than we usually do our show.
Yeah, well, we're pretty good at this, though. We're professionals.
Yeah, we like to try to be anyway.
Well, yeah, we try. I mean, we fail most days, but we do try, folks.
Now, there is one interesting thing that you could kind of relate to the Jersey Devil is Australia kind of has a version of the Jersey Devil, well, in resemblance, called the Bunyip. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Bunyip, the Bunyip.
Where's that from again?
Australia. It was originated by through Aboriginal folklore.
Okay.
They talk about this Bunyip, which is kind of like a deer-headed, kangaroo-headed kind of creature that hops around. But I don't think they really describe theirs as having wings or anything like that. But people relate the look of the Jersey Devil to the Bunyip.
That's interesting. And and there is a group of people that would know what a kangaroo looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they wouldn't be mistaking an escaped kangaroo from a zoo as a winged, horse-headed, cloven-hoofed creature.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that the Bunyip has been described as a large, hairy, semi-aquatic creature with the head of a horse. The body of the creature is generally not reported because sightings occur within rivers or lakes, but nevertheless, in some eyewitness encounters, a few good views of the creature have occurred. And, so it's very much, I mean, the Jersey Devil is more an aerial creature, but, this one is aquatic. So, still interesting, like the horse-headed kind of look, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes me wonder, though. I mean, a lot of these stories, like we were talking on the Lake Monsters episode, is that classic horse-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to that's an animal that, in those periods of time, people would understand.
Right.
A horse.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really horse-headed, or is it something shaped similar, but not a true horse head? Because it just becomes a term used way too much in the cryptozoology world.
Yeah.
Horse-headed. I mean, not everything that goes bump in the dark has a horse head. You know what I mean? It just seems like they're trying to say horse head, and okay, maybe it's a descriptive that most people would understand, but it's not similar or exactly what they're trying to get at.
Yeah.
Because
your dog kind of has a horse head.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got a nose in the front, and it's got eyes, and it's got a set of ears.
Yeah, it's a horse head.
And it's got an elongated jaw.
No, but I'm serious. Your dog is really kind of has like a horsey looking face.
Stop making fun of my dog.
You have a weird looking dog. She's adorable. I'll give you that.
She's a rescue dog.
Yeah,
okay?
She had a rough life, and now she's got a good one.
She has no hair in her ears and no hair on her tail, and I mean, at least she's gained weight since I've had her.
Yeah. She's cute, even though she comes over and licks my gut every time we have a show.
Well, if you'd stop dropping food on your gut, you should stop licking it, honestly.
I can't help it. It's saved for later. So, you know what? I would like to propose this. I would like the Xplorers, since we do, and here's another thing that, a lot of people may not really realize. We're more than just, a couple dudes talking on a radio show. We are very much active in the cryptozoological and paranormal realms. Chad and I both have belonged to and do belong to numerous different groups, relating to unknown creatures and the spirit world. We were both part of the Prey Paranormal group, which had disbanded, but I think we're getting back together, maybe, possibly, hopefully. And we've researched a lot of different haunted locales, and Chad and I actually, as part of the Xplorers, we have a local research area within Pennsylvania that we do a lot of investigating for the Sasquatch.
No.
And other cryptid creatures that we hear of. But I say, since New Jersey is our neighbor state, I say sometime fairly early this summer, we make it a point to get out to the Pine Barrens and do some, research of our own for the Xplorers. And maybe, and another thing, folks, we're actually talking about doing webisodes, so it's not just audio. You're also getting, visual, like videos of us doing what we do. And I say one of our webisodes, we get out in the field and do some legitimate research. What was that? Oh,
sorry, my chair squeaked, folks.
I just heard it through my headphone. I'm like, what was that? Ear-piercing noise.
I'll let the folks know that we're actually, one of our paranormal research areas is actually where we're recording the show this evening.
Yeah, our studio is in a legitimate haunted house.
Yeah, so
you may hear things in the background.
Every creak and every little squeak and stuff. We're looking around. We're half in the show and half ready to grab some audio recorders and video recorders and start running around the place.
Yeah, because your horsehead dog is very much alert to the funny sounds. She hears something. But anyway, back to my proposal here. I say that we get out to the Pine Barrens and we actually try and see if we could find some evidence of this creature, because this is definitely one of the cryptozoology's Big Ten,
Oh yeah,
per se, And I would really love to get out there and see what we could find, because it's really not that far away.
No, I mean, honestly, folks, it's an hour and a half from us.
Mm-hmm.
We go through Philly, we get on the New Jersey Expressway, the Atlantic City Expressway, and all that. It's 2 hours to AC, 2.5 hours from us.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, we could definitely, and I think we talked about it last summer. I think I actually talked about it while I was in Atlantic City or in Wildwood, about trying to get down to the Pine Barrens, and maybe, even if we can just get some more folklore and local opinion on it, and do some field research.
We'll try and triangulate a certain location of hot spots on a map, and we'll go and hit them up. And like you said, meet with some locals while we're there, get some feedback off of them. And I'm sure there's people that would accompany us while we're there, locals that would want to come and give us a hand. So.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. We've been talking, and one of the things I'd like people to do when they listen to this episode after you get done, go on Google, go on Yahoo, go on Bing, I don't care where you go. I don't know what service you use, but type in the hammerhead bat. If you see a hammerhead bat, it has legitimately, as I'm showing Les the picture of a hammerhead bat,
it's the Jersey Devil.
It is.
Yeah.
It is the Jersey Devil. Now, a hammerhead bat has bat wings.
Mm-hmm. Very much horse-like head.
Horse-like head. A hairy torso.
Mm-hmm.
Does not have cloven hooves.
No.
But misidentification of cloven hooves and claws.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
they
how
could see that horse head and then automatically put it together like, oh, well, it had horse feet too. I swear, yeah. I swear.
Well, the folklore says it has cloven hooves.
Yeah.
Does that make people right away, you see this horse-headed bat? I mean, it legitimately, folks, look it up. It has like a horse head. It has big horse-like ears.
Freaking ugly.
Huge eyes. And I'm sure if you shine a flashlight in those eyes, you get some kind of...
Red reflection.
Yeah. It's got the classic bat wings. Is that maybe the Jersey Devil?
It very well could be. Let's see. I'm doing a quick search on it now because this is good stuff here.
Yeah.
Damn, is that thing ugly? It actually does kind of have longer legs for a bat.
Yeah.
But what's the location of this thing? Africa. Well, hey, you never know. There, even back in the 1700s or 1800s, whatever, there was always import and export of goods, and there could have been stowaways, or they may have caught some and brought them over for, curious people during, the Victorian era, because the Victorian era was notorious for having, the Victorian era, speaking, of dogs, like where I was teasing you about your dogs, like the Victorian era was huge for the rise of pedigrees and these designer dogs and stuff like that, because, during that era, people tried to, now I'm totally having a brain fart. But no, that era, like they were always interested in the weird and the the unknown and stuff like that. And they collected lots of weird stuff. So I wouldn't doubt that during that era, they're like, oh, they wanted something exotic, so they have these freaky ass bats shipped over, and very well could have been, stuck out in the Pine Barrens, and maybe there's a breeding population. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll relate a modern-day story. When I was in high school, I used to work with one of my neighbors delivering bird food in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We used to, leave from the Reading, Pennsylvania area and drive, to those different areas and deliver pigeon food and different types of bird food.
Uh-huh.
Well, a gentleman in New Jersey, I won't mention his name because I don't want to get whacked. That just tells you the character of the family of this person, had a wild bird sanctuary at his home. I legitimately saw birds at his home, in his backyard, in these beautiful cages. I mean, these birds, people want to talk about, oh, it's horrible putting these animals in cages. These birds have better houses than I do. Better quality of life. I saw birds there that I have never seen in zoos.
Right.
That I've never even heard of on television. And this gentleman was nice enough to walk me around after I delivered, unloaded his delivery, and gave me a tour of some of these birds. I mean, this man had birds from Africa, Asia, South America, America, different varieties of species of birds.
Right.
And this was in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So, people collect things like that. So this collection, like I said, was stuff that I never saw in a zoo.
Yeah.
That he had in his house. Like, not in his house, but on his property.
Right.
So what's to
and
say...
you said that was what, in Philly or New York?
New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So there you go. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what people have in their backyards, in their basements, in their attics. You know what I mean? You have these, for lack of better words, you have these loons that are into, exotic animals and whatnot, and they either, legitimately or illegally get these creatures in their possession. Well, look at that one, what was that TV show on Animal Planet? Fatal Attraction or something like that.
I kind of remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, where that dude had like 4 or was it 4 or 7? I don't know. A ridiculously large amount of monitor lizards.
Yeah.
And they ended up consuming him.
Yeah. I do remember that story. He didn't show up for work, and a day or so into it, the people called the police. The police showed up at his house and saw him laying on the floor.
Partially consumed and decaying. Yeah, and these lizards are just walking around loose in his home.
Yeah. Defecating
and eating him.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's face it, one of the hosts of this show had a pet alligator for how long?
Yeah.
Not all rational people do rational things.
Poor Sully.
I miss Sully. But yeah, I mean, people do seem to collect animals. I guess that's us as humans, we feel we're this higher beings, so
Yeah.
we do collect things. So I mean, could somebody have collected one of these bats, a couple of these bats? You got to think like too. Back in those days, circuses traveled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did they have these African bats that, you know, I mean, look, when you go to these not freak shows, I think they get angry when you call them freaks. But these like traveling, when you're at the fairs and stuff like that, and they have those tents and the world's largest rat.
The oddity things, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, you go look at the world's largest rat, and it's actually a species of animal that's
Like a capybara.
Yeah, capybara. And, you know, oh, it's the world's largest rat, and you go look at it, you pay 50 cents to go stare at it, and it's...
a known species.
Yeah. You know, but you're told it's a rat.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a sewer rat, it's a this, it's a that. Could this have been, you know, something that somebody in one of these traveling carnivals, you know, had as an oddity show, and it got loose?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these giant snake reports, you know, you start to look at the history of them, and it's around the time that there was some kind of carnival that came through town. You know, watch every bad sci-fi movie. It's, you know, a research lab, or it's somebody has one as a pet.
Yeah.
Or the third option is, oh, the circus was in town, and that's when the boa of death consumed the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know. With New Jersey, it could be Plum Island. Isn't that close to New Jersey, or is that off of New York?
That's off New York.
Close enough.
I don't think in the 1700s that we were using Plum Island as a research
No, but I'm
facility.
saying like in more recent times, you know.
Well, I think you're wrong. But that's my opinion.
Well,
yeah, I mean, you have a lot of... I mean, here's the thing. Could somebody have wanted the property back then and created, like Les said, the Frankenstein of taxidermy, and, you know, stuck it out in the woods somewhere, and people saw it, tied it to a tree, and people saw it, and they ran off, and, well, now that land's not worth anything.
yeah.
I just think, like, the early reports is what cements, to me, there had been something.
Mm-hmm.
A misidentified known creature, 100% possible. A unknown cryptid, also possible. You know, but it does give you that, as a skeptic, you have these people who are relatively famous and relatively of a higher standard and class that would have an education on, you know, these animals, or some animals, you know, not every animal in the world, but they may have an understanding a little bit better of what they're looking at. The average person that lived in, you know, a village back then knew what the little bat was that we, you know, see around here all the time, but they wouldn't have understood the horsehead bat.
Hammerhead bat.
Hammerhead bat, excuse me, horsehead, yeah. Wow, it is getting late, folks.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Could be a multitude of things, and it's just it keeps going back to that. You know, you need, without a body, you have nothing. You know what I mean? You need that concrete physical evidence in order to prove this, because otherwise, it's all theory, it's all speculation, and you know, without that concrete proof, all you're going to do is sit there, spin your wheels, and argue with the next person who thinks that they know everything about this thing, and, you know, yeah, it's just going to be a cluster F.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any cryptid, you run into that. Side 1 thinks they do this, side 2 thinks they do that, and side 3 thinks they don't exist.
Yeah.
You know, is side 1 right? No, we don't know. Side 2 right? We don't know. Side 3, yeah, they could be right, you know, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Lack of body, lack of, you know, like Jane Goodall, living with gorillas and chimps and primates, and being able to say, I've observed them for this many years, and they do the following things repetitively.
Yep.
You know, without that, you're never going to have the 100% field guide, tried, true, tested method of this animal.
Right.
You know, and you know, anybody that claims to be an expert in any of these fields, to me, I laugh at these people.
I know.
I'm an expert at Sasquatch hunting, or I'm an expert, you know, when it comes to Bigfoot. You may be an expert in the folklore, the hypotheses, but there's nobody who's an expert.
No.
There's nobody who's lived with them. There's nobody who has one as a pet. There's no one that has observed them continuously for a long period of time. So anybody that says they're an expert in any field, it's a joke. I mean, any field when it comes to cryptozoology, paranormal, or the supernatural, they're really just egotistical. They're blowing themselves up to sound like something. Like, Les and I do not claim to be an expert on the New Jersey Devil.
No,
Either one of us.
All, no.
You know, we put this show together to entertain folks and try to educate folks and get
Just
you to
bring
form
up the discussion. Yeah. Just bring up the topic and talk about it. Cause,
Yeah.
and hopefully once we finally get our live feed, instead of doing the pre-recordings, once we get our live feed, we're going to encourage people to call in, share their stories, share their experiences, and get more involved with us and the show, because that's kind of like what we're all about. Is we want to learn from people. Like, we'll bring to the table what we hear, what we may know, what we may have experienced and stuff like that. But we really want to kind of create like a roundtable discussion with our viewers or our listeners, I should say, and you know, kind of have that interaction.
Well, yeah, and I'd also like people not to, if you're skeptical about something we're talking about, call, ask questions. We may have the same question you have about it. You know, we're taking information that we're, you know, looking up, researching, and that's being presented, and you know, it's being presented. It's eyewitness testimony. One thing I can tell you from my background is eyewitness testimony is about as useless as you fill in the analogy there. My wife has a degree in psychology, and one of the things one of her professors did to show the students that eyewitness testimony is unreliable was this test where you have somebody walk into a room, cause a scene, and leave quickly. Then have every student in that room write a report on what they saw. Just write a real quick description of the person, what they were wearing, what color hair, what color eyes, what they look like, build. You know, not even worrying about what they said. Just describe the person.
Mm-hmm.
In a room of 20 kids, you'll basically get 19 to a full 20 different descriptions of the person. You know, my wife is 5 foot something, 5'6", 5'7", has relatively brownish hair, and at the time she had curled it, and she was anywhere from a blonde to a redhead. She was anywhere from 6 foot tall to 5 foot tall.
It all depends if you were sitting in a chair when you first saw her or not.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, you're sitting down, perspective is different. Your standing up perspective is different. You know, so these kids were writing this little quick report for the teacher, and like I said, she was anywhere from a blonde to a redhead. You know, they all saw her. She was in the room causing a scene. She was in there for 20-some, 30-some seconds, maybe a minute.
Yep.
And pretty much you could not put together an accurate description of my wife if you took all 20 of them and took what was right about any of the stuff they wrote.
Yep.
So eyewitness testimony, you kind of got to discredit without hard, you know, researched, looked at evidence.
Yeah.
You know, photos can be faked, but there are people who are experts in those fields to look for those telltale signs of a photo being faked.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I was saying, anybody who's a skeptic, you know, we're talking about something. Don't turn us off. Listen.
Yeah.
Call in and give your opinion. We're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna bite your head off because you may have the same opinion we have. We're just presenting information to an audience.
Right.
So, you know, I would encourage anybody who's out there, you're a skeptic, you know, there's things that Les and I will be talking about that neither one of us believe in.
Yeah.
and we will try to present
Pretty much like most of the stuff that we talk about. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, because a lot
But
of
like you said, Chad, you have to be the skeptic first, and then the believer. Once you find that evidence.
Yeah, there's different degrees. Somebody I was reading something the other day. Somebody had posted on Facebook about a Bigfoot researcher who basically started out as a skeptic, became a researcher because they were skeptical about what people were telling them. They went out in the woods. They started looking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then all of a sudden they start to see these telltale signs of something living in these woods. Well, then all of a sudden they claim to have had an encounter with one of these Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, creatures. Well, now they are, they went from, skeptic to researcher to believer, to claim to have the, proof.
To a fanatic.
Yeah, to a fanatic who's posting, 8 million things a day about Bigfoot. But
pictures of bushes and do you see a face?
Yeah.
No, I see a bush.
Yeah, and if you actually check the Explorers Facebook page, which I hope you would join, I posted something up that was a photo from 1864 of a tree in the wilderness battlefield in Virginia from 1864. I tightened up the photo, and it looks like, from this, just the way the tree is developed, a head.
Yeah.
And I, posted it to anybody to look at it and tell me what they see. Now, of course, get limited response from the field of people who were available at the time. And then I posted the full-size photo with the description, of what you're actually looking at.
Yeah.
And you could clearly see it's just a tree. Yep. It's just the way the tree developed.
But how many people said, I see the face, I see this, and then they right away bought into it.
I see a head. Like, I see a cone-shaped head with large eyes.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, folks. It's a photo from 1864. Let's examine something here. It's not a color photo. Mm-hmm. So the tree is dark. The air and background where there is nothing is light. Mm-hmm. So basically what people were trying to explain to me was there was a photo from 1864 with a large cone-shaped head with big eyes that was pure white standing next to a tree.
Yeah. Then when you back it out to the full frame, it's completely obvious that
it's a tree.
Yeah, it's just a tree.
It's a tree with like probably two pine cones or something hanging from it, or another tree in the background that they happen to catch. Yeah. I had another photo I was going to put up one of these days of from 1860 something that it's two military officers sitting on a horse, but the horse must have moved. The one guy was sitting on a light-colored horse, and it must have moved as the photo was being taken, because it clearly looks like it's a ghost in the frame. It's just two guys
and that's
on a
another
horse.
thing too with the old photography and stuff like that. If that photo that they took of the people in that battlefield, if that were a Bigfoot, they had to, in order for that film to process and capture the image, on the film itself, it took time back then.
Yeah.
That's why most people weren't even in focus, because you had to stand perfectly still. So you think that Bigfoot's just going to stand there staring at you without moving, without anything, so you can get that perfect face?
Yeah.
You couldn't even get people to do that who understood what was going on. I highly doubt it,
Yeah. One of the things I would also encourage, if you have evidence of anything that you feel is paranormal or cryptozoology related, send it to Lesser Eye.
Yep.
We'll take a good look at it. If it's something paranormal, and you're close enough to us to travel and come down and try to help you out, we'll gladly do that. Cryptozoology related, if you have some photos, send them to us. Les, has worked as a graphic designer for years.
And photographer. So he understands photos, the editing of photos, the digitalization of certain images on photos, and what to look for. Yeah.
So, we're always willing to help anybody out with that stuff. If you want a peer review on something you have, send it our way. We'll take a look at it for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our episode, right, Les?
That hour went very fast.
Yeah, that was an hour on the New Jersey Devil.
Yeah. and or ramblings of the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a little off course, folks, but like we said, we're working on this and getting it hammered out for you guys to entertain, to enlighten, and inform. I'd like to say thank you from me, and I'm sure Les would like to also say thank you for listening.
Yep, thank you very much.
And we've enjoyed hosting the show for you tonight.
All right, good night, everyone.
Bye bye.